You know that feeling when you visit a place and it feels completely stuck in another era? Well, in this explainer, we're diving into a travel story about a weekend trip to Tanjung Balai, Indonesia. It turned out to be less of a vacation and more of an unexpected journey back in time. Let's get into it.
This was the first thought that hit the author the second he stepped off the ferry. And really, it just perfectly sets the stage for the entire experience. The feeling wasn't just, oh, I'm in a different country. It was more like, wait, what decade is it?
Now, what's interesting is this trip wasn't some random spur-of-the-moment thing. Nope. It was actually the second attempt at a journey that had kind of fizzled out before it even started.
So, here's how it all went down. The original idea was to just pop over from Malaysia, but you know how group plans go. It fell through. But the idea stuck, so it got revived with a new crew, this time with work colleagues. With ferry tickets and a hotel finally locked in, the trip was officially back on.
Okay, so after a 2-hour ferry from Singapore, they arrive. And that feeling of stepping into the past, it was immediate. And honestly, it was pretty jarring. This was a whole different level of underdeveloped than what they were expecting.
To really put this into perspective, the author had been to a nearby town, Tanjung Penang, a few years back, and thought it was run down. But Tanjung Balai? Oh man, it made that other town look like a futuristic metropolis. We are talking 0 malls, 0 movie theaters, none of the stuff we just take for granted.
And get this, the scale of the place was almost hard to believe. The entire city center was this tiny little Chinatown area that you could literally walk from one end to the other in just 20 minutes. That's it. It just goes to show how compact and kind of frozen in time this town really is.
So, what do you do in a town you can see in 20 minutes? Well, you eat, you relax, and you talk to the locals. And that's where they got some pretty cool insights.
Their most expensive meal of the whole trip was this seafood dinner that came to about 76 Singapore dollars for 3 people. The absolute highlight, apparently, was this incredible crab cooked in padang sauce. Just a little detail that gives you a real taste of the place. While they were at dinner, they noticed a lot of Indian tourists, and the restaurant owner, a guy named Agu, gave them this fascinating little nugget of information. He explained that Malaysian Indians love coming to Tanjung Balai, while Chinese tourists from Singapore usually go to the more modern island of Batam. And just like that, the whole tourist scene suddenly made sense. So, as the evening rolled in, the group decided to find a chill spot for a drink. Sounds simple, right? Well, this little quest turned into one of the funniest and most memorable parts of the entire weekend.
To get around, they were using ride-hailing apps. Their experience with Gojek was pretty telling. They used it twice and got the exact same driver both times. They started joking that he was probably the only one in the whole town. Turns out, a different app, Maxim, was way more popular with the locals and a bit cheaper too.
Their search for a bar played out like a 3-act comedy. First stop, a club at the Aston Hotel. Closed for renovation. Strike 1. Next, they tried a spot at Hotel Satria, which just felt a little dodgy. Plus, the music was blaring so loud they couldn't hear themselves think. Strike 2. Finally, they hit the jackpot with Wico Star Club. It had its own microbrewery, and most importantly, an outdoor area where they could actually talk. Success!
But hold on, we gotta go back to that second attempt at Hotel Satria for a second. When they asked for a quieter place to sit, the staff literally showed them to a table wedged between the hotel's main entrance and the busy front desk. I mean, can you imagine trying to have a relaxing beer while people are checking in and dragging their luggage right past you? Just a totally bizarre and unforgettable moment.
So, after a full day of exploring and that whole nighttime adventure, the trip was drawing to a close. It left them reflecting on what was, really, a completely mind-boggling weekend.
Their last day was a total whirlwind. They wisely skipped what they called an awful hotel breakfast and got some delicious local bak kut teh instead. Then they took a ride out to Pelawan Beach, squeezed in one last foot massage, and then it was a mad dash to the seaport to head back to Singapore.
And this, right here, is the big takeaway. The trip completely reset the author's entire definition of rundown. Tanjung Balai wasn't just a town without modern stuff. It was a living time capsule that totally shifted his perspective. That feeling of having his worldview so completely shaken was, as he put it, mind-blowing.
And there's one last really powerful detail. For one of the author's friends on the trip, this was a return journey. His last visit to Tanjung Balai had been 27 years ago. It really makes you wonder what was going through his mind seeing a place that had seemingly stood still for nearly 3 decades.
And that kind of leaves us with the final thought, doesn't it? We always talk about how much places change, but what about the places that don't? If you had the chance to step back into a scene from your own past, almost 30 years later, would you take it? And what would you even hope to find?